Welcome back. In this video, we're going to continue our study of French words. Here, we'll look at some basic, simple French rules, the ones that are really consistent and don't have too much variation. And what I mean by that is there's really only one way to spell these sounds in French, so we don't have to worry about two or more options for a particular sound, and this is really good for us. Also, the sounds we're going to look at now are fairly common in French words, so that's another good thing. So lucky for us, these sounds there's a lot of them, so we can examine each one of them, and they also include some of the main French stems that I covered in the last video. So we're going to go over them first, and then we're going to continue with the others. So hopefully this will be an informative yet simple video that will help us on our way to learning the words of French. So let's start with the common sounds, starting with the stems that I mentioned in the last video. So what I'm going to do is the sound spelling examples setup. The first sound I have is this. The sound is âge. Âge, remember the A with two dots? It makes the ah sound, and the ZH makes the j sound. So âge, and it's spelled A-G-E, if you remember, and it comes at the ends of French words, very common ending, and it means act, action, or process. Let's look at some examples. We have camouflage, the act of disguising something. You've got the âge here. We have sabotage, completely destroying something. We also have espionage, act of spying. Okay, moving on to a somewhat lighter word in definition compared to these two. Maquillage, doing makeup. Maquillage. So you see how these four words have âge at the ends of the words, and they mean act, action, or process. And then what do they define? That's something we figure out looking at the beginning of the words. Okay, so these four are really good examples of how âge is used in French. Very, very common. There's a ton of words that have âge like this, so it's good that we learn this. The other one that's somewhat similar is the sound odd, A with two dots and a D. This is how it's denoted in the dictionary, odd. And pretty similarly, it's spelled A-D-E. And examples I have are facade, it's a covering or something fake, facade. We have glissade, act of moving smoothly, glissade, and levade. Lev means to rise, or to raise something in French. Also in Latin, like elevate has that root in it. So these three have odd at the ends, just like the âge, and again, there's a lot of words that have it like this. And also, it means the same exact thing, act, action, or process. So these two are very, very common in French, and we're going to run into them a lot. The next ones I have that we covered in the last video are the diminutives. Take a look at in a second. The diminutives are the stems that make something cuter or smaller. And the first one I have is the et sound. Et. If the sound is et, it means diminutive. The spelling is going to be E-T-T-E. E-T-T-E. Very common in French. Examples are banquette. It's from the diminutive of the word bench, in French, banque. Also, we have layette. Layette is like baby stuff, so maybe that's where the diminutive comes from, the et part. You've got fanchonette, another good word. There's, again, a lot of words with E-T-T-E at the end. And these are just three examples, but there's a lot of them. So whenever you see et at the ending of French words, you can be almost sure it's E-T-T-E. A lot of times there are a couple of words that have the et sound, but they're just spelled E-T. Usually these words passed through somewhere else before they came to French, and some examples are like baronet or bayonet, but they're not as common as these ones. So, and sometimes those are pronounced with an A ending, like the word flagellate. Let me just put it down here. Flagellate has an et sound. It's spelled with an et, not anette, but an alternate pronunciation of this is flageolet. So that's kind of gives it away sometimes that you know, it's not ette at the end. But most of the time it's going to be ette, as we see here. And the other diminutive I had was L. L. Let me write this down. This is E-L. This is the sound L, and it's spelled E-L-L-E. Similarly, means the same thing, make something smaller or cuter, like I said. Examples, mademoiselle, sort of like the smaller version of a madame. It's a young girl, mademoiselle. Got the L here. Belle, it's the feminine of beau, meaning handsome, so belle means pretty, used for girls. And then we have jumelle. It's a diminutive of a Latin word meaning birth. So jumelle basically is dealing with twins. So these have the L's at the end, just like these. So also this is very common. So the Ets and the L's, they can mean make something smaller or feminine, as in mademoiselle or belle. So these two are very common as well, and we're going to see them a lot too. So this covers most of the stems that we covered in the last video. The next ones we're going to look at now are just very common French rules. Very basic, very common. You're going to see them a lot as well. The first one I have is the sound. This is the dictionary diacritic. And this is pronounced air, like if you're saying the word air, air. This happens a lot. If this happens at the end of a word, then you can almost be sure that the spelling is going to be A-I-R-E at the end. Examples are millionaire. This is a French word, millionaire. Also billionaire or doctrinaire is another one you could put up, doctrinaire. There's a lot of words like ending in air. Solitaire is another one. Solitaire. So this is a common ending of French. If you have the A sound at the end, A at the end of the word, it's going to be spelled A-I-R-E, as in millionaire, doctrinaire, and solitaire. So that's very common. Another one I have is the SH sound. This is probably one of the most characterized sounds of French, and most of the time the sh sound is going to be spelled with the CH. Most of the time. Especially at the beginning, as in chaise, which we looked at, which was one of our 10 words that we looked at the beginning. Chaise, chablis is another one. And also in the middle of words, if you've got the sh sound in French, you can be sure that it's going to be CH most of the time, as in machine. And if this is at the end of a word, SH sound, the sh sound, at the end of a word, you can almost be sure it's going to be CHE every time, as in galoche, guilloche, or affiche. And this happens a lot, the CHE at the ends, a lot. There's so many words, brioche, there's panache, quiche. There's a lot of words where that happens. And this is very common too, the CH in the middle for the sh for French, and the CH at the beginning. CH is basically the way to spell the sh sound in French. That's like the way to do it. So that's very common. So that's good that we looked at that. The next thing I have is the sound K at the end of a word, the K sound at the end of a word. This is going to be, let me write it down here, K at end. It's going to be Q-U-E most of the time. Q-U-E. Now remember, this is not the beginning, this is at the end. So just remember that. There's a lot of words that you probably know like that. Unique. Usually it's going to be with words ending in the sound eek. It's going to be I-Q-U-E for a lot of them. But it doesn't have to be I-Q-U-E. Let me just put down a couple I. Clique or click, as it's known. Another I-Q-U-E. Antique. But like I said, it doesn't have to be IQUE. It could also be words like roque or fantasque. A lot of words that just have QUE at the end. So K at the end of French words is going to be QUE most of the time. And the same kind of goes for the G at the end of French words, the G at end. If you can guess, it's probably going to be, it's going to be GUE at the end of most words in French, as in vogue, probably heard that word before, intrigue, or plague. A lot of words where you're going to have GUE at the end, just like the QUE here. So QUE and GUE are very common endings of French words that we're going to see, just like the other ones that we have looked at. They are also very common. There may be a few exceptions, especially at the beginnings. Remember, the QUE and the GUE, we're just talking about the ends of words here, not the beginnings. It's slightly different for the beginnings, and we'll cover that in the next couple of French videos that we're going to do. But just for the endings, you can almost be certain that it's going to be GUE or QUE, depending on which sound it is. Okay. The next one I have is the sound schwa with an L. This is not L, this is pronounced O. The schwa and the L, O. The spelling is going to be EL in this case, not ELLE as we saw before, but this is the schwa and L makes the O sound, and this is going to be EL, as in camel. It's not camel. If it was, it'd be ELLE. Or cancel, camel, cancel, enamel. These are all French words. The O sound at the end, EL. Remember, if it's L, it's going to be ELLE. If it's O, it's going to be EL. So that's a difference that you have to watch out for in French. But there's not a lot of words that end like that. So it's really consistent, but there's not a lot of words that end like that. So probably don't have to worry about that too much. The next one I have common is the W. Here, let me just write it out. This sound, was, and this usually happens at the ends of French words. It's going to be O-I-S-E. And we're going to see later on how the wa sound is going to be O-I in French anyways. So this basically just adds the S-Z at the end. This is a very common ending French words, as in bourgeoise or vichyssoise. There's a lot of words, ardoise, there's a bunch, but these are just some examples of French words that end in was. So that's another common French rule right there. Another one I can squeeze in here is the NY sound. Usually this is gonna, in the dictionary, it's gonna be N with a bigger line and a Y just to separate it. This is pronounced N. It's really hard to do it alone, but it's easier to do it when it's in a word. But this is going to be spelled GN. This is a case of the silent G's in French. There's a lot of those, but there's a lot of examples. Beignet is one. You can see beignet, sort of like the ends with the tildes, like the piñat, like in Spanish, sort of like that, but it's going to be GN. We've got a lot of words. Chignon is another one. And I could name a ton of them. There's so many. Champignon, Espagnol. There's a lot of words with the NY being GN. And I would say that's the standard spelling for that. So whenever you run into the N sound in French words, you would be safe, I would say, if you guessed GN for the spellings of those. Okay? And I don't think there's many exceptions to that either. So that's a good thing. The next thing I have is the N again with the W. This is pretty hard to put into diacritics. Usually it's going to be N and then W-A, noir. And there could be any kind of stress mark or accent mark here like that, noir. I'm just going to leave it like that because that could happen. This is going to be G-N-O-I. It's sort of like a combination of the two rules we saw before. The G-N for the N sound and the O-I, like I said, the wa, is going to be represented by the O-I. And examples are baignoire and peignoir is another one. Okay, baignoire and peignoir, these are different words, but the G-N-O-I, as you see here, represents the noir sound. So that's something not very common in French, but something to look out for, definitely. Another one I have is the ill at the end of the word. It's just going to be I-L, but at the end. And this is going to be spelled I-L-L-E, as in coquille and aiguille. The thing with this is that a lot of these words can also be pronounced as E at the end. So this can be coquille, and this is also aiguille. That sort of gives it away as an alternate pronunciation. If they give you coquille first as the pronunciation, if you ask for the alternate pronunciation, you'll probably hear coquille, and that will immediately give it away to you that there are L's in this word. So I-L-L-E, very common French words. It can be just pronounced ill, sometimes it's just E, and most of the times it's both of them. But the ill definitely is the first pronunciation, coquille, aiguille. So if you hear that at ends of French words, you can be sure that it's going to be I-L-L-E at the ends there. And another example I can think of is quadrille. So that's another one. Okay, so that covers most of them. The final sound I wanted to cover in this video was the OO sound, which is very, very common in French. So let me get rid of this, then we can just look at the OO sound. This has more than one spelling, but I'll show you which one's common and how to figure out when to use the other ones. So this is where we're going to go next. Okay, so the sound is this. Ooh. Remember the U with 2 dots is oo. It's just pronounced like O-O, oo. And the most common spelling of this sound in French words is O-U. And this is going to happen a lot in the middle of words, the beginning of words, at the ends of words. But this is the most common for this sound. So most common. Examples, there's a lot. Bouquet, probably the ones you've heard. Bouquet, frou-frou. Okay, there's a lot of the oohs there. There's so many words with that. Loop, coup, boudoir, boutique. There's most of the words in French with the OU is going to be the oo sound, or the reverse is true. With the oo sound is going to be spelled OU. Most of the words. Another feasible way to spell this is with just a U. Now this is going to be usually at ends of words, like menu, also tutu, it's a French word with that, parvenu is another one. See how it's at the ends? Mostly it's going to be the ends. The good thing is that there aren't that many French words that end in U. In actual French there is, like when I read the dictionary, there's definitely more OUs than U's, for sure, but there's always a chance it could be, at the end of the word. So the best thing to do here would be to look up the words with just the U at the ends, learn them, and then the rest of them you can probably be safe guessing an OU for the OO sound. However, there is a third spelling for the OO sound, which is IEU. Again, this happens at the ends of words usually. Let me make this here. Also at ends This is not that common. You could easily figure out the words. Some words I have are kamayu, or kondryu. One you probably know is probably lieutenant or perlu. If you look up the words, the French words that have IEU in them, there's probably around 10. So it's in your best option to learn those words. Then you're just left with the U and OU. And then if you just learn the words that have the U at the end that are French words, you're left with OU as most common spelling. So most of the time when you hear the oo in the middle of words, you can be sure it's OU. If it's at the end, you might want to think about it. Make sure it's not U or IEU, and then you can go with OU. But in the middle, in the beginning, it's going to be OU most of the time. But at the ends, it's going to be, it could be OU, U, or IEU. Again, there's not a lot of words with these two spellings, so it'd be in your best interest to learn these first. But other than that, this is pretty basic spelling of this sound, as we have seen with the other sounds that we looked at in this video. Just really one spelling for certain sounds. The sounds we looked at now are very common, so we should run into them later, and probably see them again when we're going to study the more complex rules of French, including the vowel sounds, which will be in the next video. So I hope to see you then.